Welcome to the channel. I'm so delighted to be here with Irene, who's a managing partner at Savills, Monaco. Irene, welcome.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good to see you.
Fantastic. So I'd like you to tell us about the buying process. If I was to come here and I wanted to buy a property in Monaco, what do I need to do? How does it work? And obviously, you're a leading estate agent here, looking after high net worth clients. Where does one begin?
So I would say you begin with us, hopefully. There's
Fantastic.
a lot of agents out there, but where we reckon that we have the market fully covered. We work with a lot of other agencies. So you should know as well in Monaco that you can almost use an agency as a property finder. And we often find ourselves doing that. So we might not be acting for the seller. We might well be, but often we could be working for the property, for the purchaser, and just going out to the market, scouring the market and seeing what's available.
So I could come to you and say, hey, I want to buy an apartment. And then you would say, normal questions would be, how many people, how many bedrooms? What would you do? What's the process?
So that's exactly the process. We would give you a checklist of what things that you might be looking for, things that you will not compromise on. Inevitably, Monaco, it's a square mile. There's only ever a finite number of apartments ready for sale. You will have to make compromises. And we do find a lot of our work is managing people's expectations. I mean, it's an amazing place. Look at the view that I sit in every day. This is my home, actually, we're being filmed in.
Fantastic.
So we do, we can certainly offer you views, but we maybe can't offer you everything. So you're working in an ever-changing landscape. There are a lot of, there's a lot of people out there doing what we do. But what we are trying to do is really hone down the questions, find out the things you will not compromise on, the things that are vital to you, so we don't drag you around 50 properties.
I think that's vitally important because normally, from my experience, asset-rich, time-poor people want to work with people that are going to save them masses of time. So it's kind of like Monaco is a bit like living in Hong Kong, I'd imagine, where it's apartment living and size is everything, but also then price is a factor of size.
Absolutely. I mean, we are also the most expensive place in the world to buy residential property. We're up over 50,000 euros per square meter, more expensive than Hong Kong, New York, way more expensive than London. And people do expect a lot for their 50,000 euros and above. And often we cannot give them exactly what they might want. This is a place very land constrained. As I've said, there are some new builds out there. They're mostly sold. So we're talking about resales in older buildings. The building I live in is about to be renovated in terms of facade. There's a rooftop going to be added to it. There's lots of things going on in Monaco. You don't have that richness of choice, but what you do get is an enviable lifestyle, I think, and a very credible place to live, which is very tax benign. So, what you're losing maybe in terms of we don't have a 1 Grosvenor Square here. We'd love to have it, but at the moment we don't. But what you're losing maybe in terms of luxury real estate, you are gaining, I think, in an amazing lifestyle.
And when you say lifestyle, is that the sunshine, the blue seas, the food?
Yeah, of course. I mean, those are all the things that you would expect. I think for me, it's a really credible place within Europe with really good communications to be able to base yourself and say, I'm truly going to live here. I'm going to bring my family here. They're going to be safe. Safety is a big element. And we have clients in the moment who aren't even coming because it's a tax benign state. It's not a tax haven. You can't say that, but they're coming because they want to feel safe.
I can understand that. So let's say we found a great apartment to buy and we've made all the right choices. What is the process? So let's say I'd imagine we find it, then we say, let's make an offer. I make an offer to you and talk me through that. How does that work and how long does that take?
Offer through us. It can be very, very quick. We've actually done sales which have taken, 5-6 days from start to finish.
To completion?
That's unusual. Yeah.
Wow,
Monaco.
That's incredible. 5 to 6 days, which is unusual.
Rare.
Rare. But if you were in a hurry and you wanted to leave country A to country B, I mean, I know myself in financing, the fastest deal we ever did was 5 working days. And the lawyers lived in a hotel next to each other and we just got it done. So that is amazing. So if you really, really, really needed to move quick, it could be done, but very rare. But for normal transactions, Irene,
I would say.
So let's say I phone you on a Monday. I want to make an offer. What happens next?
So you make an offer. You normally would give people 24 to 48 hours, the seller that is, to make up his mind. So that process is very, very quick. 10% deposit then gets paid not to us, but to the notary. It's a very regulated atmosphere in Monaco.
And what's a notary here in Monaco for all those people that have never heard that word before?
Yeah, of course. So in the Monaco legal system pretty much echoes the French legal system. So in order to transact in terms of property, you wouldn't use a lawyer, you would go to a notary. So they're state-appointed officials.
Okay.
There are 3 of them in Monaco only, and they obviously have lots of people working for them. They've got the market very well covered. They are supposedly impartial. So one notary can act for both a vendor and a purchaser. That's terribly common. And you can also have your advisor along the side who might be an English solicitor working here, or a French barrister working here, or someone you feel is really protecting your interests if you're a bit nervous about this notarial process. But I think we have many clients who use add-on legal help more for tax reasons or structuring reasons. The notary system for me works extremely well. Can't remember the stats, but in terms of property litigation here and in France, I think we're way down in comparison with an Anglo-Saxon country. The legal system here and the process is incredibly well organized, actually. So
that's fantastic.
The 10% deposit goes to the notary. He sits on it. It's in his client account. And then he generally will draft a proper notarial sales contract, which will be much more detailed than our straightforward offer. Our offer is really just setting out the price.
Yeah.
And maybe the major conditions if you, I don't know, are buying subject to planning consent or whatever. So the notarial contract will be much more detailed, and that's a document that will take however long it takes to draft, but it can be done quickly. And then down the line, you have the second stage, which is the completion stage, where the notary
receives... already. So basically, we make an offer, notary takes the 10% deposit, they draft the sales document. Is that the
sales contract?
Sales contract. That's shared between the buyer and the seller.
Correct.
And then what happens?
So that's signed.
Right.
It needn't be signed in person by the parties. Often it is. But you can appoint by power of attorney someone to sign on your behalf. So that's a process that doesn't require your presence always. And then down the line, the notary will make a few checks. He'll check that there's no mortgage registered against the property, or that if it is, it will be cleared by the sale proceeds. He'll check whether or not there's any major planning difficulty with the property, if rooms being added without consent, all that kind of thing. And then generally between the sales contract and completion, you will have a 2-month period. Some properties are subject to a right of preemption from the state, but those tend to be older properties, i.e. built, I think, for 1946. So most of Monaco is newer than that, so it doesn't concern the regular buyer. And it's very rare that the state will preempt.
Wow. So you could, in theory, move very quickly here.
You can, yeah. But as I say, we've done not every day, and we love them when they come along.
Yeah.
But we've done everything from visit to completion, where there was actually no finance in the circumstances where we've worked quickly.
I know. I mean, financing always takes time because you have to write a credit proposal, get credit committee approval. They want normally a professional valuation.
Exactly.
Et cetera, and that can take some considerable time. I mean, for me, maybe as long as 6 weeks.
Yeah.
From start to finish to get an approval. And if you're trying to complete on a transaction, from a UK perspective, that can be as long as 3 months.
Yeah.
Land registry searches and things.
Absolutely. But a lot of people do borrow still. Not for tax reasons. It's not like buying in France where you want a bit of debt to increase the value of your property for wealth tax and so on. But I mean, it makes good sense sometimes for people not to tie up cash. So
fantastic.
So borrowing goes on.
So the buying process is pretty much straightforward from the sounds of things.
It's really straightforward.
Is there anything we're missing?
No, the only thing I would say, and there's not that much we can do about it, it's something that we, systematically check for clients. Monaco is tiny. It's constantly evolving. I mean, there are complaints about the major parts of it always being under construction, but what else can you do when you're land constrained and the supplies and demand things just don't stack up. So people are always concerned about losing their view. We do research on that. We've got a good relationship with the planning authorities. We go to them. We find out what we can in terms of zoning plans and planning consents that have been obtained. But Monaco, you have to be careful, and you have to think that in certain areas, at least, maybe you won't always have a view. So that is, I think, for me, the major danger about buying in Monaco.
Yeah, agreed. If you lose your sea view, I mean, when you look here, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why for me, the port is a safe bet.
You're I was just going to say, you're very safe here. I mean, it's highly unlikely that someone's going to build 20 floors,
Correct.
15 floors in front of you.
No, we've got buildings here, but they are limited to road level. So,
fantastic.
But it is something that we check up on. And sometimes you can't do any more than say, look, it's fine now, but who knows?
No, I agree.
Because things do evolve.
So that's amazing. So that's just the buying process. And let's say I wanted to rent before I bought.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I think it's really sensible. A lot of our clients start off as renting and then they're not really of the mindset to rent for too long. So they come back to us and they buy. But I think it's a really good inroad to Monaco. We've done a load of rentals this year, actually, for those reasons. People who are coming from all over. We've had a lot of Canadians, Australians, New Zealand, Brits in the last couple of months, and they've all decided to rent rather than buy immediately so that they get to know, I mean, it's small, Monaco, as I've said 100 times, but every area has its distinct personality. And you may think that you really don't want to be on the port, and then suddenly you think, wow, yeah, I'd like that actually. So there are sexier areas in Monaco which people always want to come and live in, like the beach area, for instance, or the Golden Square. But then as time goes on and they see how life in Monaco really is, they're quite happy to move elsewhere. So renting is enough for you to get a residence card. You need a 12-month lease. So it's very unusual to find people renting for less than that because they want the 1-year lease to get a card. But it is enough to rent. You don't have to buy. And
what is the process? So I'll come to you again on a Monday and say, hi, Irene, I want to come and live in Monaco. I want to rent somewhere. Again, how long does that take start to finish and what's the process?
That can be really quick too. I mean, we've just done one this week that took 4 days. 3 days actually. We don't have the registered lease yet, but you see the property. Again, you put in an offer. You give 48 hours for the offer to be accepted. You then pay a deposit, your rental deposit plus the agency commission. It's the tenant here who pays the commission on a lease. And if that's all accepted and goes through, you can have a lease drafted, overnight, really. And then it has to be registered. And the registration process here with the tax authorities will take a couple of weeks. But it's actually very straightforward.
Amazing. That's incredible.
I think Monaco is a really amazing place to get things done quickly. It's efficient. It's Mediterranean, yes, but all the municipal authorities, they'll speak English. They are pretty efficient. Things get done now more and more by email or online. It's the only thing I would say, setting up a business here, which for some people is a very good idea, can be a bit cumbersome. And that's a process that requires authorization. And that they're busy trying to work on that to make it smoother. That definitely can be a bit slower than you would want.
But at the end of the day, if you're coming here to live and you're bringing a family or you're coming here to rent, then it's going to take a while to settle in. So you're going to have lots of spare time, from my experience, when we've relocated in our lives from country A to country B, to have that time to settle in and do all the things you need to do. So that wouldn't concern me.
Efficient, I think. In comparison with, I love France, I have a house in France. We love going there, and of course, and that's the great thing also about Monaco. It's not an island. In 5 minutes, I'm in France, and 15, I'm in Italy. So I think the process of visas and residence and getting things done in France is ultimately a little bit frustrating. It's not in Monaco. Really not.
So where would you prefer to eat? France or Italy?
To eat?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the borders are so close. Because, what are you, quarter of a square mile? So, hey, let's go east tonight, darling. We've got Italian. We could have pizza or pasta. Let's go west. We have French cuisine.
I know, it's really
What would you prefer?
Spoiled. We are spoiled. My favourite place to eat in the whole world, actually, not just in this part of the world, is a really unusual oyster shack in Monaco on the port in Fontvieille, and it's run by two actually quite gorgeous Breton marine biologists.
Wow.
And they came here to see if they could cultivate oysters in the Mediterranean, and they have done with huge success, and a big oyster van. And it's just so unusual and so amazing. So it's fresh oysters from the Mediterranean.
So should I have champagne with my oysters, or is that going to make me sick?
That is never going to make you sick. Champagne never makes anyone sick.
Alcohol is not my friend. The only drink I can drink is tequila, and tequila is the only drink that does not raise your heart rate or your blood pressure.
Seriously? I didn't
Correct.
know that. Okay,
No,
well,
I
there
learned
you
that
are.
recently because I stopped drinking completely when my daughter was unwell because alcohol, I couldn't process it. Then I met a client from Miami. He said, "Hey, Paul, you got to try tequila." I went, "You nuts?" I said, "No, try tequila."
That is so interesting you said that, because my daughter has just said to me, she's 25, living in London, doing the London life thing, and she has decided that that's the only thing she can drink too. She has one glass of wine and she feels terrible. She rings the
100%.
NHS emergency line.
So I have a blood pressure monitor and I have an Apple Watch. I have an Aura ring with some of my Formula One drivers where monitors my sleep, my heart rate, my blood pressure. So I'm a bit gadgety, as you can tell. If something goes on, but I am not like oh my God, the ring's gone off or the phone's on. But the point is, tequila is my friend if I want to have one drink.
Interesting.
And it's the best drink to drink before you eat. So when you go to Mexico, you'll see a lot of Mexicans have a shot of tequila, which is normal pre-dinner drink.
I will note that, and I will make sure the Oyster Shack stocks some.
Tequila and oysters. I'm
don't
not
know why
sure.
not.
It's tequila and oysters gonna be my friend. If you think we should do this in the channel for a bit of fun, then comment below. We'll try and do a tequila and oyster. An experience.
They'll go mad down there. They're so traditional. They have cider and they have champagne and they have white wine. And I think they said they make their own rum.
Wow.
It's a digestive, which is a bridge too far for me. But
So,
yeah, why not?
well, okay.
Open to anything.
Let's give that a go. That's going to be an interesting one. Okay, Irene, what advice would you give yourself if you're 18 years young, starting out today?
Oh, 18. God, that's a long time ago. I think I would say that it seems to me I've got 3 children, aged between 20 and 25, all girls. And I think that the young that feel, I don't know, a little bit nervous and a little bit scared to take jumps. And I don't think they see the world necessarily as a very positive place anymore. I think at 18, I felt the world was my oyster. And I think that that's how they should feel, because they've got youth on their side and they shouldn't believe everything they hear about what everyone's doing. Be confident and not arrogant, but self-esteem is a good way to go. I think I'd say, have more self-esteem.
That's fantastic. I think confidence is such a vital thing. I mean, they have 2 younger daughters, 16 and 12, and as they're growing up, I think for me, confidence and belief, and you've got to truly believe that anything is possible. And I think if you find your passion in life, just really become a master in that art. And you don't feel as though you work a day ever. I mean, I don't feel like I work. I just love what I do.
This isn't work. You're talking to me. It's not work. Pleasure.
It's unbelievable.
No, but it's true. I think, I think the other thing is just remember that everyone walking into a room where you know no one is scary for anybody. Not many people on the planet actually love that. And I think I keep saying to my daughters, don't think about how you feel. Think about how everyone else is feeling
100%.
when you walk in. I mean, they're as nervous as you, and people want to talk about themselves. If you feel you've got nothing to say, ask them a question, and they'll love talking about themselves.
100%. It's like, I believe God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And I think if you use them in that way, entering a room full of strangers is not a problem for me.
Yeah.
I don't find.
I still feel daunted by it. I do it all the time. That's my business, meeting people, and I like it. But I think also, keep that genuine, keep that naivety a little bit. I think it's absolutely fine to be a bit naive. Not in your business affairs, but
no, agree.
Your personal affairs.
So, Irene, what other benefits are there of living in Monaco?
So, mentioned, obviously, it's tax benign. It's not a tax haven, but once you're here, there's no income tax or wealth tax or succession duties unless you leave outside the family and only on Monaco assets. There's no municipal local taxes. There is VAT on services and goods and so on. So yeah, it's tax benign. There's a business profits tax. So if you set up in business, there may be a tax to pay you depending on where your turnover is generated. But it's all pretty smooth and regulated, as I've said. There's a good court system. There are good lawyers. You have good professionals. You're not coming to some outback where you won't be able to get good advice. You are in it feels like abroad, so it does feel a bit exotic. It's not like a little mini England or offshore or what have you. We're not offshore anyway. So but for me, I think the climate, of course, it was a bit hot this summer, but yeah, on the whole, the winters are amazing. There's skiing within an hour and a half. You're in Italy within 15 minutes. I think the cultural life is actually incredible. Music here is brilliant. Jazz and classical opera too. There's a thriving art scene. We have quite good art exhibitions and galleries. We're so near Nice. I love Nice. It's fantastic. Took my kids there recently and it's all been rejuvenated. It feels like a big city. I think it's a really credible place to live. You're not going to come here and think, oh my God, I hate it. Or very few people do. It's just not a livable place. It actually is it's quite a cool place to live now. It's much younger.
Fantastic.
People coming here are younger. They're still involved in business. So they're dynamic, I would say.
Fantastic. And what is the rate of VAT?
The rate is 20% generally, same as in France. Monaco forms part of a customs union with France. So that's, we're not part of the EU. Doesn't look as if we're ever going to be a part of the EU, given recent discussions, which is probably a good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But we are part of the French Customs Union. Fantastic. So you can get pretty much anything you want here within reason. I think the food scene is good as well. Market shopping, love all that. It's a place where increasingly what we are looking for are larger apartments for people truly locating here, wanting to bring their children. And there's good schooling. It's another thing. There's an international school. There's a new British school, which is doing really well. Then there's the state system, which is actually pretty good too. They do the baccalaureate there. I don't know. It's actually quite an easy place to live, but it's not without character and soul.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So Irene, tell me, what are the costs of buying a property in Monaco? Well, apart from the ginormous purchase price, of course, because it is that's the biggest hit. Yeah. The purchase costs are actually not extortionate now in comparison with the UK and so on. So generally, as a buyer, you'll pay 6% stamp duty, which will include notarial fees, unless you buy through a foreign entity, in which case you'll be paying 9%. Most people now buy in their own names or through a local company vehicle. And then you have the terrible agency commission, which for buyers is 3% plus VAT generally, but negotiable. And sellers too pay a commission here in Monaco, 5% plus VAT. And if you're renting as a tenant, you'll pay 10% of the annual rental plus VAT. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information. If you want more information, you want to speak to Irene, then please comment below. I will be very pleased to introduce you personally. Thank you. That sounds great. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. Brilliant.